Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Wrinkly Brain Podcast. I'm your host Jason. For our 9th episode today, I am joined by my co-host Cameron.
Howdy y'all.
And our guest today is our WrinklyBrainEDH castmate Shelby.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So today we wanted to talk about tribal decks. They're one of the most popular archetypes and surprisingly diverse. And we all have a nice tribal deck here. We love a little bit of good tribal. I've got my warriors, Cameron plays elves and zombies, and Shelby has his beloved scarecrows.
Yeah, I've really been big on zombies. That was actually my first even kitchen table deck was a zombies deck. And I remember I spent like $20 on it, and I had like 4 Diagraph Colossuses in there because it had just been printed in Standard, so I've always had a soft spot for that card especially. It's a good card. Funnily enough, I've never actually gotten to play elves in Commander. I've always only played it in Modern and Legacy. But I do need to put an elves deck together.
Yeah. I mean, you also, one of your favorite CDH decks is Selvala, which does get to go towards elves a little bit.
It's Brostorm.
It's elf adjacent.
Elf adjacent.
Elf adjacent.
But yeah, let's get on to our main topic here. So, for general tribal themes, a lot of tribes are creature decks that beat face pretty good. That tends to be a common theme among most of them. They do have creatures working together to create some interesting interactions. Not everyone is always so geared towards beating face, like wizards, and some versions of elf decks are more about just producing large amounts of mana than they are about overwhelming the opponent. And you also have Shelby over here who can tell you all about scarecrows and their just wonderful ability to blow up random permanents.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever turned a scarecrow sideways in any of the games I played with that deck. It's not very good. I didn't run a bunch of support for combat stuff because I didn't want to do combat stuff. I wanted to win another way, which thankfully my commander happened to allow me to do.
Armageddoning everyone.
Yeah, that wasn't the intention. This is kind of what happened.
People will tend to scoop to that.
Fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a fine win. I'm not mad. No, it's a way. If there are no other valid targets on board, you have to start picking other opponents' lands.
I put that stuff in there, and I remember thinking to myself, the stuff that allowed me to have 8 triggers. I think I had at one time per scarecrow I played.
That's ridiculous.
Whenever I was putting the stuff in to allow that to happen, I said, "There's no way this is ever getting off. This is definitely getting removed as soon as it hits the field." And then it didn't. And I said, "Oh, okay then."
And then you play against the warrior tribal deck that doesn't have quite enough removal due to budget.
Yeah. that deck, I don't even know what. I'm looking at the deck. Ooh, never mind. Definitely. Oh yeah, I had all the duels in there. Never mind. Yeah, definitely not budget.
No.
Not quite.
It's all good, though. It's all about the fun of it, right? And bash and face with tribes can be a lot of fun. Another thing that has a tendency towards tribal decks is they do tend to be in 1 to 2 colors, but some of the more powerful options will branch out a little bit. For example, Elves, again, has a tendency to be mono-green. It has support in Selesnya and in Gruul, and, you can find a 2-color combination of Elves so long as it has green.
As a quick aside, I remember I tried to force Coiling Oracle in Modern once in my Modern Elves deck and play Sultai Elves because it's a Snake Elf Druid as its creature types. And I also got to play Unified Will. Those were the 2 blue cards I was playing. I was really proud of that.
Truly a pioneer.
Pioneer? I didn't play Pioneer.
I knew the joke was coming.
And talking about some of these more popular tribes as well, or at least ones that branch out a fair bit. We mentioned Shelby, 5-color for his scarecrows. My warriors, there's a 5-color deck. Slivers, extremely popular tribe, also 5-color. And, while it doesn't have the most support in Commander specifically, 5-color humans is a popular deck in things like Modern, or at least it always gets attempted in Modern, even though it's fallen out, by the way. It's fallen out by now, but...
No, you could still rock humans. You'd be fine.
Oh, you absolutely can.
I've always liked it in Commander just because you don't see it as much. Because we discussed earlier that humans don't get the bombs normally in when it comes to the new sets. They get the supporting cards. Not necessarily draft chaff, but the bomb rares are going to be your demons, your werewolves, your angels, etc., etc. Whereas the humans are going to, a human that what is the rally captain enters the battle. It costs 1 less for each creature that attack this turn, so it can be a 1 white draw card ETB.
Oh, sure.
Little card.
Yeah, it's true.
I know that Matt really had a deck back in the day that he really enjoyed playing all the time. He called it his Amen deck. It was his Cleric Tribal.
That's cool.
And he really liked that. He was very proud of that pun, and I'm pretty sure that pun was like 80% of the reason he played that deck ever. he
God, I
really
love Cleric Tribal.
It's honestly very good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But building onto that, one of the other things is there's 2 different types of tribes you can work with. You can have like the race or species-based tribes like wolves, werewolves, humans, merfolk, all of those. And you have the class-based tribes, which are things like berserkers or warriors, or not elves, elders.
Allies.
Elder, that'd be an interesting one. I don't know where you fall that one. Allies is definitely a class-based
Elder
tribe.
dragons, the dinosaurs from Ixalan are elders.
Respect your elders.
Hold up. Is Wickerbow Elder?
An elder?
Is it an elder? Probably not.
It's probably just a tree folk.
1 second. Wickerbow Elder.
You could do. Gods is another like common one because there's the gods from.
Yeah, it's race-based, but
Now you got the World Tree that lets you tutor out the gods.
oh yeah, tribal support
yes.
doesn't come
by the
just
way-
in creatures.
Wickerbow Elder is a tree folk shaman.
Yep.
Hey,
elder.
shaman
Not
tribe
an elder.
Uh-huh.
We'll
I
get
mean,
to that.
I figured that'd be the case because I'm pretty sure Sakura tribe elder is not an elder.
Not Sack Daddy.
Steve.
So between those 2 different like groupings of tribes, though, there's like some minor differences you'll see here and there, but they operate really similarly. Soldiers and warriors are aggressive just like goblins and vampires are. They just each seem to have their niche to them, which kind of starts to beg a bit of a question of, is there a little bit of generalization to tribes that goes on where it's a little bit too much geared towards beating face, and successful tribal decks tend to be lower on their curve. With the printing of Giada, we kind of had a little bit of a question of, are tribes getting just a little too much of the same with just bringing down the curves, having these small creatures and building this snowballing advantage? What do y'all think?
Yeah, the only issue is that, like, you're a tribal deck, so you're generally playing, like, 30 creatures in your deck of your tribe. The way you're going to win most of your games is some combination of combat damage, and a lot of tribes get the Blood Artist effect of when X creature dies, each opponent loses a life or something. So, like, there's the zombie one, there's an elf one, there's a, vampire one, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess Blood Artist is just a vampire. So.
Do goblins have something effect like that?
Yeah, Pashelic Mons. You also can sacrifice your...
Don't forget about Goblin Bombardment.
Gob Bomb, Sling Gang Lieutenant, sack a goblin, drain 1, gain 1.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some combination of that and combat damage and, other various effects, drains. That's how you're going to win the game. Or unless you're like vampires and you have some really cool, like, what is it, the exquisite blood and like there's the vampire lose life.
Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood.
Not even like there's the sorcery that like you can have someone lose half their life and kick it so you can gain that much life back.
Yeah.
Is that not about an actual exsanguinate? Because that's just an X spell that does that.
No, that's just the X spell.
Expel
tribal with the
I know the spell you're talking about though because that's often played in veto decks because you
1-card combo.
Use it's a 1-card combo to just one-shot a player.
Yeah, I believe it came in the Zombies Precon from 2017. Not Zombies, sorry, Vampire Precon in 2017.
Yeah, it did. It was definitely in there. So we're not like quite sure to say like is there true generalization, but there's definitely common themes.
Mm-hmm.
It's trending towards the decks becoming similar.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right. Now we're going to get into the magical world of tribal decks and talk about some of the favorite tribes out there. Normally, when we do a script, I write the script, I give it to anyone who's participating, they review it and everything. This time, though, I did a lot of numbers research, and I wanted to start quizzing them, get their opinions on how many decks they think they would see of specific tribes. So, we're going to go ahead and start with the 5 tribes that I would consider mainstay tribes of Commander at this point, which are goblins, elves, zombies, vampires, and dragons. And also, before anyone starts raging in the comments, shout out to Slivers, you're not quite there.
No, I think those 5... The thing is with those 5, they can be in any set, so they can always get some kind of card that contributes to their new success. Slivers is kind of a very specific, like, plain thing, right? Like, if slivers are there, slivers are there.
Yeah, it needs to be, like, Wrath Dominaria or Chandelar to really see slivers, or Modern Horizons, because Modern Horizons. I'm looking forward to more slivers, but we'll get back to them in a second. Stock goblins for a second. You primarily see them in Mono Red and Rakdos. There's some options in Jund, and there's technically options in Gruul as well, between Grumgully and Wart, but...
I wouldn't play those as zombie. Why am I on zombies so much? Why would
it's
not?
like it's your favorite tribe in Commander or something.
Right.
He's itching to get there.
It's not like you'd normally build Grumgully and Wart as Goblin Tribal. I guess maybe Wart, if you could do like the Krenko command and double those up, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But especially not Grumgully.
So, I want you to take a wild guess at roughly the total number of lists that fall under this specific tribe. And for everyone at home, this is a rough estimation. Hey, I did numbers. I didn't say I was great at math, so don't hate. But
oh Lord, I don't know if I'm gonna sound like way over or way under.
So, I'll start with this. I'm gonna tell you how many Goblin tribal decks there are with Krenko Mob Boss.
Okay.
By far the most popular Goblin's tribal commander.
I wonder why.
So, yeah, I wonder why. Know this, there is a huge drop between him and any other Goblin's commander. Krenko has 5,725 lists. He is the most popular mono-red commander.
Okay.
For context on other commanders to talk about, we have Muxus, Wart. You also have some like Grinzo decks, either the mono red Grinzo or the Grinzo Dungeon Warden. There's a bunch of other Goblin tribal decks that are like, they've got like 100, 200 lists, but not a ton. And then you've also got Perforos, which is a really popular pseudo Goblin tribal commander. But you know,
Perforos is he's an honorary Goblin.
Yeah, and Zada Hedron Grinder is also an honorary Goblin's tribal commander, just because it ends up being Goblin's tribal, even unintentionally. But
you play all the Krenko commands. Dragon fodder.
Knowing that almost 6,000 lists are Krenko specifically, how many do you think are just generic Goblins decks?
Shelby, you want to guess first? Or you want me to?
And I got it.
You got it. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking somewhere probably around somewhere between 9,500 and 10K. That's my guess. So I'm just go with 9,742 exactly.
See, I was gonna go 9,274.
Okay. Based on what I was looking at, it's a little over 8,000.
I was closer.
The next highest Goblin's commander is Perforos at about 700 to 800 lists.
Behind Krenko?
Behind Krenko.
So Krenko has 5,000.
Yeah.
And the next highest, I thought even like Muxus would have been somewhat like decently high.
Muxus has 587.
Bull. There's no way.
Krenko has 10 times the number of Goblins lists that Muxus has.
Or even if you're wanting red-black goblins, like who's the best commander for red-black goblins? It's not Grinzo, is it?
I have some bad news.
It's Grinzo?
It's Grinzo or it's the other Wart.
Grinzo's the fun option.
But
I like
Grinzo's a complete, not a goblins deck. Grinzo is
No, it's a weird
infinite mana off the bottom of your library deck.
I mean, that's the really good way to build it, right? If you're moving toward the CDH and really high power level, but a casual Goblins deck when you're playing Rakdos and you just want the Goblin that get real big.
Oonga boonga.
I mean, I'd even play like Rakdos the Showstopper before those, because it's a board wipe in your command zone.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our next mainstay tribe here in elves.
Woo!
There we
So
go.
you primarily see them in mono green, but you also see them in Golgari nowadays. A little bit of Selesnya, a little bit of Naya.
I guess, like, who is this? Is it Reese, the Selesnya one? Reese?
Reese the Redeemed. Yep. There's also Selvala Explorer Returned, who does have some number of goblin lists. Or goblins. Elves. I'm doing it now. Yeah. You have these commanders that do end up being tribal leaders, even though they themselves are not necessarily geared towards being a tribal deck.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to give you the context of the second most popular elf tribal deck.
Okay.
Let's do this.
In Marwyn the Nurturer, with
Yeah.
2,105 lists. And this is primarily combo elves. So this is one of those less traditional beat-facey elf decks.
Can I guess the highest played elf commander?
Yeah, take a guess.
It's the Golgari precon one, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I
Lathril
figured.
Blade of
Lathril.
Elves.
Which is funny because I'm not convinced that Lathril's that good.
Yeah.
But precon face.
I'm not going to tell you the exact number.
No. I just
But
wanted to guess who it was.
I'm going to tell you the commanders that were added up here. And I will tell you this, that Lathril has more decks than Krenko.
I figured.
So, we have Marwyn the Nurturer, Azuri Renegade Leader, Lathril Blade of the Elves, Riss the Redeemed, and Selvala Explorer Returned. Those are the 5 lists we're adding up for this one.
Okay.
Take a wild guess.
Sorry, you talked about Naya Elves deck. You could play just Jetmir as Elf Commander.
Yeah, absolutely.
In theory.
But sorry. Moving on. I'll go first this time since Shelby went first last time.
Okay.
11,100
Okay.
Elves Commanders. I'm way over.
I don't think you're way over. I'm going 1,300.
1,300?
Yeah.
Or 13,000?
13,000. Apologies. Misspoke.
Yep.
$1, Bob.
Yeah,
$1.
I think it's somewhere in the 12k to 13,000. 12k to 13k range.
Okay. So, Shelby's probably a little bit closer.
Okay.
Without adding up the Selesnya lists, which get a little bit complicated because it's like 200 to 300 of each of them, there are 11,353 tribal elf lists,
I was close.
with Lathril being the 6th most popular deck overall, and, worth noting though, it is behind 2 other tribal decks.
Oh, I know one of them. I know one of them already.
Yeah, I bet you do, Mr.
Because I play them.
Yeah, I wonder why.
And, oh yeah, and Lathril has 7,673 lists.
Yep.
Figured.
I should mention, this is all according to EDH Rec, by the way. I didn't make that
EDH
clear initially, but yeah, we're using EDH Rec for figuring out these numbers, with some rough estimations thrown in here.
Wait, Jason, you don't have a sixth sense for how many decks there are in the world at one time? What the heck?
Yes, yes, I'm aware there are exactly 47 Brushwag decks. 47 Brushwag tribal decks.
How many of those are you?
7.
Okay.
It's crazy to think that Lathril was with the Kaldheim Commanders, correct?
Yeah.
That's only been out for 2 years, year and a half?
Mm-hmm.
That's already the highest played elf. I mean, it also helps that deck was probably pretty good out of the box.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
And $20.
Yeah.
So
Cheap deck, easy access, pretty solid overall, pretty easy upgrades as well. I still make the argument that it's not the best elf commander, but
No.
The
I
thing
think-
is that elves are just kind of, they're very easy to learn as well.
that's what I was going to say.
Really,
You can-
it really is just play elves, get value, win game.
they're a great introductory point because you have those unique elements of elves in the mana generation stuff, and they're still very good at the snowball component. So it's it's kind of like playing D&T and Legacy as an introductory deck. That's like one of the ones people always recommend because it's relatively cheap, it's pretty easy to understand, and it's one of the best decks to learn to master it.
Yes, it helps you learn. It also, elves, we've talked about before, like the upgrade points, like the points in the game where you're like, oh, I can do this. Elves is really good at that. Like if you have a Heritage Druid and a Nettle Sentinel out, you can just be like, oh, I can just kind of chain these things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Elves is really good at that.
Yep. All right. So, moving on to our next tribe. Zombies. Zombies have a lot of diversity in how you can build them, because there are actually mono black builds, mono blue builds, Dimir, Esper, Grixis, and Sultai. As long as blue and black are in there, you can probably have a zombies commander.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Rooftop Storm.
Mm-hmm. And there's just a lot of these lists. It's kind of surprisingly diverse. I mentioned before how there was such a large drop between the Goblins decks, right? Where Krenko just dominated everything, and then you would have a couple of lists at 200 to 300. You had Muxes sitting at just under 600. You had Perforos somewhere between 700 and 800 lists. Zombies, that's not the case. Almost all of these commanders have at least 1,000.
Oh, wow.
So, here's a hint for your guessing, alright? We have, in mono black, Liliana, Heretical Healer, and Ghoulcaller Gisa.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. In blue black, we have Gisa and Geralf, the Scarab God, and Wilhelt the Rock Cleaver. There's also some to be said of Grimgrin, but Grimgrin was more of his own thing.
I had a Grimgrin deck at one point as a Zombies Tribal. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. And I'm not going to go too deep on talking about the 3-color options because they didn't really put up a ton of great options, and they're not actually going to be included in the numbers here for what we talk about at the end.
Really?
Okay.
The Esper one's really good, I thought.
I will include the Esper one because, and I'll tell you this one, she has a respectable 3,253 decks.
Okay.
So she is by far the most popular of the 3-color options. The Grixis options like Thraxamunda are just not very popular. And then you have Sidisi Brood Tyrant in Sultai. There's still not a great zombies commander in Sultai, but Sidisi's still pretty good.
Yeah, she's okay.
Alright. Do you want me to tell you any of the lists, or do you want to just take your guess? I already told you Verena.
We're going to go for it.
Alright.
So Verena had 3,000, and that was respectable.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't looked at EDH Rec in a while, but we saw, and we talked about it earlier, I do believe Wilhelt is like the 3rd or 4th most popular commander on EDH Rec.
Yep. He's up there.
I'd be willing to bet that is the case as well.
So I have a guess. I think Shelby's first this time.
I'm first this time, huh? All right. I think I have my guess. I mean, I think it's more than Elves. I think they're probably the most popular tribe. I think I'm going to go with 15,000.
Okay. I was going to go
15,000.
I was going to go like 13,500.
Y'all both way too low.
20?
Not quite that bad.
Okay.
All right.
18?
Without including Sidisi or any of the Grixis zombie stuff, just, again, it's a little hard to figure out the numbers based on that.
Yeah.
We're at 17,000 lists.
Yeah.
Wow. Does that make it the most? Wait, no. I know one. I think there's one more popular tribe, right?
We got 2 more to talk about here.
Oh, wow. Oh, my lord.
There's a couple of really popular tribes. Like we're not talking about humans. Human tribal is pretty big too. Really.
I don't think humans above either of these.
I think humans might be goblins out.
Maybe goblins.
Well, I didn't do the deep dive on humans, but we'll go to it. So I mentioned before that Verena has, a little over 3,000 lists. It's a respectable number, right?
Yep.
All right. Liliana, Heretical Healer, one of my favorite ones on this, 999 lists.
You're so close.
Close.
You said everything you listed had over 1,000, Jason. I can't.
Whoa.
Pretty much.
Yeah, come on, Jason.
Add 1,000. Yeah. All right. Ghoulcaller Gisa has about 900 lists. Real good. Gisa and Geralf, 1,280. Scarab God. Now, Scarab God's a little bit interesting because not all of the lists are zombies. The total number of Scarab God lists is about 4,200, but if you make it for zombies specifically, it's a little over 3,000.
Okay. Yeah,
That's a
you
good
can
point.
build it
That's
just
still a
blue-black
good
control.
portion.
Or blue-black mill. You could do that. You could do Scarab God as a mill deck. That'd be interesting.
Mill, Control, Reanimator, Scarab God's got options.
Yes, it does. I love Scarab God.
And for our big boy daddy Wilhelt, 6,267.
Yep.
Now, noticeably, that's less than Lathril.
Yes. Yes,
So
it
I was
is.
wrong.
Does that speak more to the fact that zombies has gotten like better commanders overall? Because elves, I can kind of count off the ones that I'd want to play. It would be like, as I said, I honestly, I am in a weird opinion that I think Abomination of Llanowar is better than Lathril. People may disagree with me, but I think it is. And you have like Azuri, Marwyn. That's kind of where I'd stop. There are other ones you could play, like Freyalise, but I don't like her that much as the commander. Yeah, with zombies, like they're all respectable. Like Gisa, like that's kind of why I like it, because you play the other commanders in your zombie deck. So in my Wilheld deck, I'm still playing Gisa and Geralt, Scarab God. You know, what was another blue-black one we mentioned? I don't know. But if you're feeling a different commander on a given day, you're just like, oh, do I want to try Scarab God as my zombie commander today instead of, Gisa and Geralt? Sure, just put it in the command zone, and it should function pretty similarly.
All right. So, zombies so far have the lead as the most popular tribe. But we've got a couple big ones to talk about still. Let's talk vampires.
I knew it. I knew that was next.
All right. So, vampires you will generally find in Mono Black, Orzhov, Rakdos, Grixis, and Mardu. There's also an option for Dimir, but Dimir is not popular enough to really make it to the list here. It'll only add like 100 lists.
I was thinking like you said Grixis, then I was like, oh yeah, and Streets of New Capenna has the new zombies commander,
Evelyn.
vampires commander. Yep.
And there's a lot of popular commanders that are vampires. So this is actually really hard to track the numbers on accurately. Because let's take our good buddy Vito, Thorn of the Dust Rose, who has 1,415 lists, but only about half of them are actual vampire tribal. Most of it's just tribal life gain, because Vito's really good at life gain, but so are vampires.
Yeah, vampires as a tribe is really interesting. You've got Edgar.
Yeah.
There's something. Is Edgar the most popular commander on EDH right now?
Nope.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know he's up there.
Yeah, he's definitely up there.
Fifth most popular. I'll go ahead and give you the numbers on him.
He's definitely
But let's
top
talk about
two.
the other ones. I mentioned before, though, that there's a lot of commanders that happen to be vampires that are pretty decent, but they don't make the best tribal vampire leaders. And a lot of the mono black vampire, they're just not popular as commanders anymore. They've just been completely usurped by primarily Rakdos and our good friend Edgar Markov.
Yeah, Edgar Markov consumes all.
He's just the best vampire commander.
Yep.
Bar
So,
none.
for the most part, we can actually almost ignore the mono black options. The only ones really worth mentioning are Drana, Liberator of Malakir, and Anawan, the Rune Sage.
Mm-hmm.
They're fine. You got Alinda the Dusk Rose.
Is vampire commander.
I did not think that she would be primarily vampires, but it's about 70% of her lists are vampire tribal.
I did not expect that. I expected that to be more of an aristocrats deck.
On the flip side of it, oh, go ahead, Shelby.
Oh no, I was just saying. I bet you Marchesa, the Black Rose, actually probably has some decks for her vampire tribal.
Yeah, there's probably a few. I didn't look in Marchesa, but there'd probably be one or two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 100 probably.
No,
But
one or two. Okay.
next on that is I didn't expect Alinda to be a popular vampire tribal leader, but I did expect Felisa to be one, and she is not.
For Orzhov vampires?
Yeah.
I mean, you also have Edgar Charmgroom now, which
Yeah.
I think the card's unimpressive. But if you're playing an Orzhov zombies, it's a lord.
Yeah, he's only got a couple hundred lists.
Okay, I figured.
Hardly worth even counting for the numbers here. And then we also had this other issue, again mentioning that there's a lot of vampire leaders who are just kind of fine on their own, but not the best for their tribe. You've got 2 Olivias that are not particularly good as vampire tribal. You have Florian, who is like okay, but not the most popular for vampires themselves. And then you have 2 Anya Falconrats, who are only one of them's vampire tribal, but it doesn't change the fact that other people try to play the other one as vampire tribal for like, it's like 100 lists.
The Madness one, people are trying to play that
Yeah.
as vampire tribal.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make it work. Isn't there a vampire that gives all vampires madness?
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, you can make it work. There's also the precon commander, right? Stefan?
Yeah, Strephon and Olivia Crimson Bride are both played as tribal vampires more times than not. Which is interesting, because I don't think of Crimson Bride as a vampire tribal deck, but
it cares about you controlling vampires, right? Like, you exile the thing you reanimate.
Yeah, you need a legendary vampire in play.
So, I mean, that kind of helps, though. Like, if you play legendary vampire tribal, you know?
Yep, and let's talk about Evelyn the Covetous for just a second. So she is not the most popular one here. She only has 554 lists. She's a relatively new commander as well, so it'll be growing. Only about half of them are full tribal, but she does play a lot of just random vampires in her deck for value. And that's going to happen when, CEDH catches onto it and is like, World Gorger.
Yeah, that is just mill your opponents out, isn't it?
And yourself, but...
it's funny, though. Everybody loses.
Yeah. I mean, y'all lose first. I pass the turn.
Right.
All right. And I'm not going to give you the number on Edgar Markov. Just know that he is the 5th most popular commander overall.
What was Wilhelm? 4th?
No, Wilhelm was
I think it's 6th,
the
right?
second most... He was the second most popular blue-black commander.
Okay.
But he's not that... Like, he wasn't, like, top 5.
Okay.
I think he might be top 10, but he was not top 5. So, gentlemen, I would like your guesses.
Oh,
Cameron,
Lord.
how many vampire tribal decks are there?
19,434.
19,000.
Shelby?
Yeah. I'll give my reasoning after Shelby goes.
I was gonna go with like 11K. I'm gonna go with 13,427 now.
Okay.
I'm hoping that Edgar Markov alone propels me, gets that many decks.
That's
All right. So, Cameron, what was your logic here?
Well, not much. I just wanted to say a big number. Mainly, it was
Big number?
well, I know Edgar Markov is super popular, mainly because it's a $100 card now, which is ridiculous.
Well, this hasn't been reprinted yet.
I mean, it's the best vampire commander, and I think enough people are going to be playing the ones from the precons and the less good vampires to maybe supplement the rest, but I think Edgar Markov, you said 5th most popular commander? I don't know.
Yep.
Could that have like 10,000 lists on its own?
I will definitely say the most popular one definitely has that many. I don't remember if...
I think Edgar might have like 8K or so.
Can I
Shelby,
go down?
You're really good at guessing.
Damn it, Shelby's got it. What did Shelby get?
So Shelby guessed 13,400. The number I have is 13,700.
Oh, my Lord. I'm a little over, Bob.
Shelby guessed 8K for Edgar Markov. It is 7,871.
Wow.
It's really just that easy. Nothing better than
Edgar
blind
Markov's
luck.
fun. You can argue
Oh,
that Edgar Markov may just be the best casual commander just because he makes bodies, he doubles
also-
up your bodies, and he's a lord.
It's just really easy to play him. You don't really.
He's
have
really
to,
fun, too.
Easy to pick up and play.
Yeah, I think he's a little too simple for my liking at times, but at the same
Well, I mean,
time,
to be fair,
he's fun.
effective.
he was built. He was designed for a precon. And precons they're designed to introduce people to the format. So having a simple commander is not a bad thing for a precon, in my personal
certainly not.
opinion.
No. I remember playing those out of the box, and it was very clear Edgar was the best, and it wasn't very close.
I don't know. Dragon was not bad.
No, but Edgar was the best.
Was that the same time the cats came out?
Yes, all the Eminence commanders. There's Inala, right?
Yep.
Inala, Arabo, Edgar, Dragon. One more?
Yep. No, you got it.
There was only 4.
Yeah, that's a busted ability. We could talk about something.
Yeah.
We could talk about Eminence someday, but for now, I just want to say we're a little shy of 14,000 lists for vampires, which firmly places them in second place on these 5 mainstay tribes. Let's talk about our last one.
Wait, sorry. What place are they in, you said?
From what we've looked at, they are in second place.
Second place. Huh? Ooh.
So, let's talk about dragons. The big mana tribe that's here. And a tribe that I'm always surprised by just how popular it is.
Dragons are cool.
Dragons are cool.
Dragons are fucking cool.
Dragons are cool. You're talking to the guy who has a Kalia deck. Like,
Right.
I know, dragons are sweet, but...
Kalia is an awesome.
I mean, a lot of people's
It's fun.
generic fantasy is like, I want to cast dragons and kill people with dragons.
Yep. People love them. Alright, so, I'm going to talk about the small lists here. The guys that didn't put up much. Alright, with dragons, generally you're going to find them in mono red, Gruul, Jund, and 5-color. So I want to give you the numbers on the smallest lists here. With Lathliss Dragon Queen having just under 1,000 lists. Mono red dragons
That's
still
good.
got that much.
Yeah.
If you added up all the other mono red dragons commanders, there's like 2 or 3 more that people will sometimes play. You get a bit higher, but for the most part, about 1,000 lists in mono red.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Cloth.
Oh, Clouth.
The 7 mana hasty flying dragon who makes a bunch of mana when you attack or deal combat damage. He's kind of like an old Gnawbones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of a mix between Grand Warlord Rada and old Gnawbones. He also has just under 1,000 lists at 974 lists. And we have our good friend Karthus, Tyrant of Jund. Jund dragon who gains control of all dragons when it enters the battlefield. A paltry 436 lists.
That commander's all. If your table is bringing dragons, that's a meta call.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see here.
Or changelings. Get 'em.
Or
I was saying this due to the lack of scarecrows, that would probably screw over my Reaper King deck.
your Orvar deck taking over your table. Just take control of it.
Yep. So, I'm going to list out a couple more commanders. Just know, all of them have more than 1,000 lists. And we already have 2,500 lists starting out.
Okay.
So, we have Vrondis, the other Gruul commander, the one that enrages to make dragon spirits.
Mm-hmm.
You have Scion of the Ur-Dragon, Tiamat, and the Ur-Dragon itself.
Okay.
So, how many lists do we have overall?
Whose turn is it to go first?
I believe it's my turn to go first. So, I think by far there, I believe that Ur-Dragon probably has the most decks out of all of those commanders you mentioned.
Correct.
I think that might honestly be like close to half of the total dragon decks. I believe we're dealing with about, like, part of me wants to say like 12,500, but I could very easily see that number be much higher, depending on, you know, what all you constitute as, you know, like a dragon tribal. Because if you're playing a dragon commander, you know, just a big CMC, you might as well just play dragons at the point, right?
Yep.
He said you don't really build a dragon deck with anything but dragon tribal.
Yep.
So
It's true.
I'm gonna bump that up to 13,500. I'll give him another 1,000.
Okay.
I was gonna go right on 14,000.
Okay. Keeping your numbers real close to each other this time.
Yeah, I had 14,000 in my head before Shelby started. Before Shelby had logic, I just guessed numbers.
Final answers?
Sure.
All right. There are about 14,489 lists.
Darn
The
you!
Ur-Dragon does make up almost exactly half of the list at 7,221.
That's a good old.
Big dragons popular.
Yes, that they are.
I was impressed by Vrondis having 1,500 lists,
Really?
but yeah, I don't like
Precon
Vrondis
Commander.
that much,
Precon
but it is
Commander.
Precon Commander, right?
Mhm.
Precon Commanders always get that
They're-
little bit of a bump.
They're guaranteed at least 1,000, I
Um,
believe. I think.
Who's the highest? Who's the highest non-precon dragon commander? Is it Tiamat?
It's Tiamat.
Tiamat's awesome.
Yeah.
2,100 lists.
Really that many, huh? Wow.
Oh yeah, it's pretty high up there. And also, I could look a little bit deeper and find things like poring over Morophon lists. Always a pain to try
Yeah.
to figure it
Mhm.
out.
Hold on, I'm actually curious. I think I'm gonna look at it.
What about Ramos Dragon Engine? It's in the name.
So I did look at Ramos as a Dragon Commander, and there's like 100, 200 lists. Not the most popular
That's a
for it.
shame. I think those colorless commanders that like
Mhm.
that just essentially it's a build a tribe. I think those are super cool. And while during our Halloween special when I played Skeleton Tribal has like zero support. Like there was like what I forget the name of the ship. I think it was like the like it was a ghost ship that was a command legendary. It was a commander.
Ghost Ship?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was called Ghost Ship. I don't remember. But,
Yeah,
but
that's there's a commander called Ghost Ship. It's terrible.
There was no support for skeletons at all. So I ended up playing Grist as the commander because he looked like a skeleton in the art. Even though
Right.
Grist is just a tiny bug.
I have an impromptu game for you, both of you. What is the most popular Morophon tribe?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Changelings.
I'll give you the total amount of lists, and I'll let you guess. So there are 3,947 Morophon decks. It is the 55th highest played commander. So y'all's guess is both shapeshifters?
No,
That's my guess.
that was my guess, but now that he's taking that one, I guess I got to change. Well, one of us is gonna have to change.
Well, I'll just go ahead and tell you, shapeshifters is second with
Ooh.
556.
I got a chance to beat him here.
Yes.
Um,
And just for the math, Dragons is third with 300, so it wouldn't have factored in too much. But
Yeah, it wouldn't change much here.
it could be. No, I don't think it's slivers. A lot of them. It wants to have all five colors.
it is a tribe that is in all five colors.
Yeah,
that,
it wants to have all five colors for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
I'm running a Morphon mono black deck.
I reduce everything by one.
Let's go, Goblin,
Morphon Goblin.
Goblin Arcanomancer. Let's go. But
I need a guess.
I know you do. I'm sorry. Let's just go. I'll say slivers because that's the only thing I think of whenever I think of five color.
Sliver is fourth with 286.
Ah!
Do you want me to just tell y'all?
Oh yeah.
It is Eldrazi. I was surprised with 633.
Yeah,
That makes
it's
some
the colorless
sense.
commander for it. Yeah, and plus,
Yep, fair enough.
Yep.
some Eldrazi do have colors, but it's just
Yeah.
a void.
All right. Finishing up on this, talking about slivers very briefly here. I mentioned slivers are popular, but they're not quite to the level of a mainstay. That's part of the reason that
They're so
you can't just have them in any set.
they're super expensive.
They are a bit expensive.
Slivers? Like
Yeah.
like actual yeah, I guess like Sliver Queen and
Yeah, like
Mhm.
what's the Cascade one? The first Sliver?
First sliver.
Yeah.
Who is the most popular sliver tribe leader now?
Sliver Queen?
Total. No. First sliver.
Oh, I thought you were asking who is.
No. The total number of sliver tribal lists is about 7,500.
Mm-hmm.
You can add on the couple hundred from Morophon, but it doesn't quite get to the level of goblins.
Yeah.
It's very close, but not quite.
It's definitely top 10.
Mhm.
And I honestly, I know usually like when we're talking about the power level of decks, money is not normally an option. The thing that really comes up. But I know for sure slivers in particular. A lot of the good slivers are really, really old and do not have a lot of reprints.
No,
So
they do not get many reprints.
having a good sliver deck has a large barrier to entry, which I believe holds back slivers as a tribe. Really,
Yeah, slivers just needs a little bit more love to get there a little bit better. But at the same time, they have a bit of a hard time because you still want those old ones that aren't necessarily going to get reprinted. But yeah, if we did a ranking of just the tribes by how many are played, number 1 is zombies. Number 2 is dragons. Number 3 is vampires. Number 4 is elves. And number 5 is goblins of our mainstay tribes. But we're going to talk about tribes that are surprisingly popular. And one of them does beat out goblins.
Ooh.
I'd mention that Wilhelt is the second most popular blue-black commander. Behind another tribal deck.
Is it the rogues one?
Nope.
Is it Runo?
Nope.
Wizards?
Oh, man. Oh, it's ninjas. It's ninjas.
It's ninjas.
Oh,
It's ninjas.
yes.
It's ninjas.
Yep.
Yuriko.
Ninja.
Yuriko is the third most popular commander overall, with 8,835 lists, and even though Yuriko decks do a little bit of swinging between being full tribal ninjas and just a little bit of tribe to it, you can pretty much attribute all of them as being tribal decks. So, yeah, Yuriko has almost 9,000 lists on her own, and Satoru Umezawa also adds in about another 1,000 lists.
Yeah.
He got that many. Good for him.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Satoru is really, really cool.
Yep. And I had to double check to be 100% sure, because Satoru, I can't remember the total number from when I did this research initially. I think Satoru had something like almost 3,000 lists, which surprised me, and 1,000 of them are ninja tribal. So, yeah.
I'm not surprised.
He does a lot of ninjas.
Yeah, that
but
does.
Whenever that card got spoiled, whenever we saw it, we were like, oh, that's really good. We should build a deck around that as soon as possible, because it's gonna be a good one to have on camera.
Oh, yeah. And just very quickly, I'm just going to go through some of the tribes that surprised me by how popular they are.
Uh-huh.
Squirrel Tribal has 4,000 decks.
Chatterfang probably has about 4,000 of those decks.
Wizard Tribal has about 4,000 lists. Not the most popular, but it's pretty good.
I bet
pretty
you cats
popular.
have. I bet you cats have a surprising amount too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Red Siri gets a little bit awkward because some people lean heavier into dogs, some people lean heavier into cats, some people do this even split. There's about 4,000 Red Siri lists. Not the most popular Naya commander, might I add, and not the most popular Naya tribal commander. We'll get there. And Arabo has about 2,500 lists as well. So if you wanted to attribute them all to cats, let's say, you would be at about 6,500 lists for cats. And we also just got a whole bunch of cats in Streets of New Capenna, so...
Yep.
Moving on, we've got the most popular Naya tribal leader and the most popular Naya commander, Gishath. Tribal
Wow.
dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yep. You know.
That was obvious. I don't know why it's basically the only dinosaur commander, unless you want to count Morphon.
Yeah, Morphon or Ramos. Ramos can do it too. Just because there's a lot of high CMC ones, but you know.
But the Gishath is the most emblematic of what a dinosaur is. Just rah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And Zakama. Don't forget about Zakama. He's not
True.
really.
Zakama is an option.
He's not
too.
really a that dinosaur tribal.
More
per se,
lands.
It's just
but
a big dumb dinosaur.
Zakama can be truly devastating if you let the deck be devastating.
Yeah. I didn't want to go dig too deep on dinosaurs because you can get into the minutia on where you fall with things like Atali or let's say you're working with... I'm blanking on the name of the mono green guy who gets a discount. Galta.
Oh yeah,
I
Galta.
thought you were gonna say Goreclaw.
Yeah, you could do those. But there are 5,043 Gishath lists.
That's probably
And
like,
they're all dinosaurs.
Yeah, but I say that
Oh,
might
yeah.
be like all
Well,
of the
there's-
decks for dinosaur.
There's
tribal.
no other way to play Gishath.
Yeah.
You can do weird ramp things if you want, but like
It's
it's dinosaurs.
Oh, obviously you gotta do. Was it? Is it Huatli Nestender? I forget the name of that commander.
The eggs.
Egg, yeah, eggs. I've seen people do that for dinosaur tribal as well.
Yeah,
same
you
with
can do that.
same with dragons, honestly.
Atlapalani.
Atlaplani, that's the name.
I want to give you just a bunch of different tribes that all have about 2,000 to 2,500 commander or decks. Scarecrows.
Yeah.
2,000 scarecrow lists.
How-
Nightmares and horrors.
They got that new commander that really boosted them.
Yep, Umbrus really boosted it. They've got 2,000, almost 2,300 commanders right now,
Good.
or decks right now,
I bet you
which is it's incredible. Bears, 2,000
Bears.
lists.
All thanks to Bearscape.
Yes, thank you, Bearscape. Very cool.
Ayula is a good commander. I like Ayula.
I bet you there's a lot of pirate tribal.
There is a fair bit of pirate tribal. There's about 4,000 lists, and they're still getting more development.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about them in a little bit here. Elementals, about 2,000 lists.
Elementals is a cool tribe.
Big green.
I was a little surprised it's not higher.
Big green
But-
angry jelly bean.
Ethan would definitely agree. Elementals is a good tribe. His favorite. He wants Risen Reef just to be a commander.
Yep. Hydras. And this is actually a really interesting thing. Alright, Gargos is the go-to Hydra tribal commander. Mono green, big mana discounts for all your Hydras plus fight spell nonsense. Pretty good. 1,200 lists. But Zaxara matches that 1,200 list. And Zaxara has significantly more decks for Sultai X spells.
See, I don't consider... I wouldn't think of Zaxara as a Hydra tribal. You could definitely build it that way. That'd be really cool, actually. I've seen it more X-Spell tribal. That deck can get out of hand.
Then, here's another couple of ones that I was a little bit surprised by how popular they are. There's about 1,000 lists on each of them. Gods and Avatars.
Yep.
Each have about 1,000 lists.
The World Tree and the Prismatic Bridge.
Giants.
Giant fling tribal. Isn't there
a
Brian
giant
Stout Arm?
Isn't there a Boros Giant that was a pre-con commander that was bad?
Yes, Kalemne is very bad. Kalemne is very bad. She's not technically giant tribal. She's just big
stuff tribal.
Big Boros creature tribal.
I don't even know what she does. I'm going to look at her. Holy moly, I can't even find... Here she is. Oh my lord, she only has 374 decks for a pre-con commander.
Yeah. Agar, though, was the one that surprised me, having 700 lists and them being giant tribal.
Agar, what do they do?
They're the 3-mana Izzet commander who, if you deal excess damage with instant sorceries or giants, you draw a card.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
They're fine. I mean, Giants doesn't have, a bunch of really good options, so you gotta take what you can get for them. Besides Morphon, the obvious best commander for any tribal deck.
Yes. Morphon's always a decent option, right?
I bet you Merfolk probably have a lot, too.
Merfolk's pretty low on there, actually, because Merfolk just doesn't have... Merfolk's a clunky tribe, so they always have a really hard time getting enough support. Last one on just surprisingly popular, Shapeshifter tribal.
Yeah.
About 1,000 lists.
It's just that
you do Orvar, Mistform Ultimus.
And we got a couple of up-and-coming tribes they're just getting more and more support here and there. Angels, I'd mentioned, have 1,000 lists, and Gyata is now the 7th most popular mono-white commander, which is pretty impressive.
Wow.
Yeah, only 200 lists away from being the 3rd most popular, so
they'll get there very fast. They should be what's the highest, Heliod right now?
Light Pawls.
Really?
Huh. Light Pawls and Heliod are number 1 and 2. And they're both real good. Spirit Tribal. We've gotten Millicent, we've gotten Kaikar. Their 5-color options are kind of bad, but yeah.
What are you talking about?
Morphon.
Working on it.
I'm going to say the same thing again. You have Morphon and Rainbows, man. What do you mean bad options for 5 colors?
Yep. You'd mentioned Pirates. Pirates have about 4,200 lists split between all of their options. And they have a lot of options due to partners, so it's a little hard to track it up. Mentioned humans before. Mono White, Selesnya, Orzhov, Mardu. A little bit lacking on 5 color.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, what are you talking about? We have Morphon.
Sea Monsters. Sea Monsters is an awkward one.
They're
because
so cool.
They are really cool to have. We got Runo with his 2,200 lists. We just have this awkward bit on, it's 4 different tribes being smushed together. They would really benefit from an errata that would just label them as sea monsters.
Sea monster. I mean, you get Whelming Wave. That's the best reason to play this tribe. You bounce. Yeah. It's very good.
I wonder if they'll make that consideration, because we've had multiple tribes that have run into this before. The main, recent one being dogs.
Dogs were? What did they get errata to?
Hounds, Kenra, and dogs itself, right? They just all got grouped into one tribe.
They did that for dinosaurs and
Yeah,
lizards, right? Like
dinosaurs and
they did
lizards,
a lot of some of the bigger lizards. They made dinosaurs.
Yeah. When they introduced the tribe, they, things change. So it's not like they can't do it.
Pirates is a really new tribe in the grand scheme of things. Like Ixalan, right?
I'm surprised it's so new too.
Well,
you would think it would have been around a lot longer, just because it's pirates.
Well, so you had mass block pirates, but there were like 12 of them.
Not many.
So like the tribe has existed. It just didn't exist as a actual functioning tribe because they just did this weird taxing ETB ability thing, and that's all that mattered. Also, if you wanted to, like, in my mind, I've always thought of pirates as just being a type of rogues, and rogues are now their own established tribe as well, which we talked a little bit about this. They have this cool thing where they get to attack on a different axis, where they're attacking both your life total and your deck at the same time. That's kind of their unique niche, and I'm glad that's happening. Dwarves?
Yeah, Depala, and I think there was a couple of dwarves in that mattered in Strixhaven, right?
I'm just saying. They got...
You also got, just Magda.
Oh yeah, never mind. Magda's probably just...
Magda's the big one, but, Depala previously existing. So these are all tribes that are always getting a little support here and there. Clerics, I'd mentioned earlier, is getting support, and that's... They had their old stuff. I don't remember if it was Legions or which set it was actually in back in the old day where you get things like Edgewalker. But they've always had a little bit of support, and they're just a generic like being a class that can show up in any set is very helpful for them.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Last one I wanted to say is an up-and-coming tribe, a sneaky one, Advisors.
Kethis?
That's not the important part.
Oh, what's the
important part? No, the important thing is you have persistent petitioners, right?
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
So, since the printing of persistent petitioners in 2019, they have printed 20 advisors in blue-white. There's a total of 60 advisors.
That's enough. That gets you there.
Well, you just fill out your deck with petitioners, right?
Yeah, persistent petitioners.
So the thing I'm finding that's kind of funny here is, you've increased the total supply of advisors by 50% in just 3 years.
Wow. Persistent petitioners alone.
Advisors are getting there.
Yeah, they are.
That is pretty funny.
Oh, yeah, did any of these kind of stick out to you, being a little bit interesting, or things that surprised you?
Oh, yeah, obviously advisors. That's very sneaky.
Advisors is surprising. It kind of surprised me how much dinosaurs there were, but then dinosaurs also has, not problem, but dinosaurs and dragons are kind of similar in that, like, oh, these things are cool, I want to beat face with them. So, I mean, it makes sense to me that dinosaurs would have that much. Yeah,
definitely a lot of overlap in those.
I'm surprised there's as many cat decks as there are for sure as well. Because without the Eminence Cat Commander, there would be significantly less. I feel like
Ren and Siri.
Oh, absolutely. Ren and Siri really pumped it up, and I didn't go into great detail of checking things like Jetmir or Kit Kanto or one of the newer ones in the Bant precons, like, there's Rigo, who was in the main set, but there's also Cross, right? You have all these options as potential cat tribal commanders. So there's probably more, even though you do have to knock a few of them down because of Ren and Siri. You don't know how it's split between dogs and cats necessarily. And the last thing we want to do before ending off today is we just looked at a bunch of tribes. Do we feel like the tribes that we want to see supported are getting enough support? So, Cameron, tell me about what are some tribes you want to see have more support?
So, specifically, my big wants for tribes that, in my opinion, need support more are the sea creatures. We touched on them earlier. They're really cool. But off the top of my head, the only one I can think of that is dedicated to sea creatures is Runo Stromka. Runo, the new Runo. I think he's like the only one that's dedicated to that. Maybe you could argue like Sherix is a big crab leviathan, but And my other one is Mono Black Demons. specifically mono black. You can play red black with any variations of Rakdos you want. They all kind of work. My big problem is the one dedicated mono black demon commander I can think of off the top of my head is Ob Nixilis, the Planeswalker. Well, there's multiple. His human version, I think, at that point. I don't know how he transcended into being a demon, but he wasn't at that point in that art, and he's bad. Very bad. I played Villas Demons, which was cool, but it doesn't really support the tribe. That's just more Villas is a very good demon. And I have some smaller ones that I would like.
Yeah.
Like Shamans is a really cool tribe.
Shamans are neat.
They have really good support. Like I think they're mainly a Jund tribe, correct?
Gruul Jund.
Like you could play Yurlok Shamans. I believe Yurlok is a shaman. There's some Shaman Matters cards. Like I know there's a card like the Harbinger, the ones that tutor a creature to the top of the library. There's a shaman one, and like Ignoble Hierarch's a shaman, I believe.
Yes, shamans were one of the tribes initially supported in Lorwyn block. They have a few pieces, like the main two ones you mentioned is the Harbinger, but you also have Rage Forger, which, putting 1/1 counters on all of your shamans and then swinging and doing damage depending on the number of shamans you have. And then now we have Harmonic Prodigy, which also works.
Helps that too. It just cracks me up because I was at an SCG con in Dallas a couple years ago, and I was at a modern side event, and someone brought out modern shamans, and I was like, oh, that's spicy.
Oh yeah.
And the other small one we also mentioned earlier, skeletons. There's one Skeletons Matter card I can think of. It's a weird enchantment that came out very recently. It's like 3 black-green that like
Skeletal
at the beginning of your
Swarming.
incept you make. Yeah, it's not good.
It's not.
But
It's the best you're gonna get though.
It's not terrible though.
It would
It's
work.
actually-
It could work if there were more skeletons, because skeletons' whole niche right now is, reassembling skeleton or persistent specimen. Those like, oh, you can reanimate them from the battlefield. It'd be really cool to get a commander that enabled that more in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Shelby, what do you want to see more of?
So, some travel. Obviously, Cameron's brought up. I was gonna say it too. Please, for the love of God, skeletons. They're drowning. They need your help.
They may have already drowned. They're dead.
Well, fair enough. But skeletons need a lot of help right now. Insects, I think insects could use a lot of help too. They there's a lot of insect cards, and there's not really a bunch of like support for them at all. Like unless you're also doing elves, but like as far as that goes, I for the longest time I was always hoping for a Walls commander. And then recently, and then I say recently, they gave us Arcades, and it made everything a lot better for Walls. So, Walls have a pass now, I'd say.
Well,
we also have Pramicon, but
you could get some more variation in your Walls commanders.
Yeah,
like you all you have is Pramicon is bad. It's strange. I don't know. Bad is the correct word. It's fun.
It's just that
we need better Jeskai commanders.
Walls is a creature type that's been been around for so long. And something that is not really like a creature tribal deck. I think it'd be really cool to have more commanders, kind of like the evens and odds companion cards that significantly give you incentives to run cards of this CMC in this deck, and you get additional benefits.
Sure.
Like for example, way back in the day, whenever I first started playing Magic, more or less, one of my friends built I think it was 6 CMC tribal deck. And it had very, very little support because it's not really good, so to say. But
it's a good meme.
It's not really like creatures necessarily, but I think that kind of deck. I think that's really. I enjoy building around those kind of restrictions.
Yeah, we have a couple of things kind of like that, like Yinit wanting you to play a higher number of odd spells in your Esper deck, which is cool.
The best Eldrazi, Void Winnower.
Yes, Void Winnower is fantastic. And then you have Emoti in Simic giving you Cascade. I believe it's only on 6 mana value and higher spells, but giving it to all of them is pretty powerful.
Yep.
So we do have a bit of that, but we could see some more interesting things, maybe more akin to like Luris as just a commander.
Yeah, because
for low mana value.
Yeah, if we moved away from if they were introduced some options that were not just creature tribal decks, then we could have less. Earlier we talked about just how all the tribal decks are kind of just converging on beating face until opponent dead. The best counter removal is player removal, turns out. So
True.
I think this would also help alleviate some of those issues as well by, including like other ways to win essentially. Kind of like we talked about earlier with Hydra's, the X spell the X spell tribal decks are also a thing.
True. And for my side of things, I've got a couple of big ones and a couple of small ones. My big ones are more clerics. They're going to happen one way or another. I'm just happy to see it. I want fairies to have a really good tribal fairy commander. Like, Nimrus doesn't do it for me. Una doesn't do it for me. Really want to see one that's acting kind of more similar to how we have Anawan for rogues, doing something kind of similar for fairies, perhaps. Not sure where it's going to happen, though. I mentioned before, 5-color humans doesn't have enough support. I would like to see a dedicated 5-color humans commander. Like, yeah, I can play Garth One-Eyed, I can play Sisay, I can play a whole bunch of different options, but it's really a stretch to make those decks happen. In the small ones category, Soldiers?
Soldiers is a really sick tribe.
Soldiers has just fallen by the wayside. Like, it feels like they've moved into kind of the generic territory of warriors.
Yeah, warriors, knights.
And they still have knights.
Knights.
Right? So we kind of have this weird spot where soldiers feel like they're in limbo a little bit, and I would like to bring them out of that a little bit. Phyrexians. This one's just going to happen, right?
When we go back, it's going to happen.
So, this is a small one for me because it's going to happen one way or another. I'm just interested in seeing how they do it. And the last of my small ones category is Illusions. Illusions have one of the best tribal lords in the game in Lord of the Unseen.
Yeah, it gives them hexproof, right?
Mm-hmm.
That matters a lot because illusions die to being targeted sometimes. So
yep. And you also have the commander Min,
yes,
who is a draw 2 cards commander, but the reward is getting increasingly larger spirits. Or, not spirits, illusions. I would like to work on that a little bit, give them a little bit of more support, but it doesn't need a ton, right? I'm cool if they remain a niche tribe that only a couple people play. But yeah, with that, I think we're done for today, guys. Do you have anything else you want to add in here real quick?
Yeah, now I want to build sea creature tribal. Runo Stromkirk seems very cool. And I know it was one of my big wants, and now that I'm looking at the tribe, it's just swinging with big, dumb sea creatures. I mean, that sounds fun to me.
Just because that'd be fun.
All right. Shelby, you got anything you want to throw in?
Yeah, I did actually. I wanted to thank you both for having me on today.
Oh,
so
thank you. We're glad to have you, Shelby. All right. And with that, I think we are done today. Thank you all very much for watching our wonderful 9th episode here. Hopefully you learned a little bit about tribal decks and were surprised by some of the numbers, like us seeing Yuriko as the 3rd most popular commander. And remember to follow, like, subscribe. We've got our social media and our Discord server that's available to anyone. We play games with people. You can chat with us directly. So always having a great time there. Be sure to tune in 2 weeks from now. We are going to have a very special guest on the podcast. It's going to be a ton of fun, and I'm really hoping that y'all enjoy the episode when it comes out.
More special than me?
Maybe just a little.
All right, fair enough. Are you sure? I haven't played since Cons. That's pretty old.
I think I got someone who played a little bit longer.
I don't know. Look forward to it.
All right. Thank y'all very much for watching. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks. I've been Jason with Cameron and Shelby. Good night.